In this lesson, I'm going to teach you 7 Joe Pass licks that will make you a better guitarist. And more importantly than the licks, I'm also going to teach you the concepts behind the licks that will make you a better improviser. My name's Chase Maddox. I teach guitar online via Chase's Guitar Academy, and over 150 people trust me with their jazz guitar education. I have curriculum pass, step-by-step methods for anything from learning tunes, learning how to improvise, learning how to comp, solo guitar, and much more. So check out the links in the description. Lick number 1 sounds like this. Okay, so one of the very first lessons I did on Joe Pass was this one on Scarpios. It was a while ago, but it's a favorite of mine because there's a concept here that I sort of coined this term, Scarpios, just meaning scale plus arpeggio. And it's something Joe Pass does a lot of, and we see it in this lick. So we're starting off with this scale. You could think about it like G melodic minor, but it's really just some sort of G minor. And then what happens? When he gets up part of that scale, and it's usually around the 5th if you want some specifics, we jump to an arpeggio. And then in this case, another arpeggio, G minor 7, right? So this is an idea that you can use on any chord, is just start up the scale, and then when you get around the 5th, this is a good spot for it, use an arpeggio based on that 5th of the chord. Lick number 2 is from Joe Pass's solo on All the Things You Are, which sounds like this. So the idea here is this one of target notes. If we look at this lick, on the face of it, we have a lot of chromaticism. It might be a little hard to even figure out what Joe Pass is really thinking or doing here. And I want to just clue you in on this idea of picking a note and using different methods of embellishing around that note. In this case, the note C. So even just with that first part, you see how we start on C, we come back to C, back to C again, and then the last part here, even on the A flat major, we have this little chromatic idea. So that's a very common chromatic idea where you start on a note, go up, go below it, and come back. And then he ends on A flat. But just listen for that C. C, C, C. So we keep coming back to it. So it's very important when you're analyzing these things or coming up with your own ideas to think about target notes. Which notes on these chords do you want to focus on and keep coming back to? People don't do that, and their improvising sounds really like it's not going anywhere. There's no theme to what you're playing. Next up, for lick number 3, it sounds like this. Okay, so this is a really simple lick. We're really just combining 2 basic jazz concepts, and that's the concept I want you guys to take away here, is learn essential jazz patterns and learn how they connect to form longer ideas. This is a very big topic, but it's an important one when you're trying to learn how to improvise, is how do I connect these simpler patterns together and then form those into longer ideas. That's essentially what master improvisers are doing. They just have access to more patterns that they've learned and more ways of combining them. So in this specific example, we're taking this idea of a pivot arpeggio. So this is over G major 7. We're going to start on the 3rd, and we jump down the interval of a 6th. And then we come back up this arpeggio. And then connected to that, so that's the first pattern, pivot arpeggio. Connected to that is this pattern known as a 1, 2, 3, 5. So on G, we're taking the first note, G, the 2, A, the 3, B, and the 5, D. We just put those together. What's also great about this pattern is you can do it in sort of an infinite loop. So if we go after G major, we go in the circle of fifths to C major then. We could go to, then we're starting on the 3rd. Then we go to F major, right? we can keep doing this in that sort of perpetual way. And it's something I'm going to teach inside Chase's Guitar Academy because it's a really good exercise based on this lick. So stick around there if you want to get access to that lesson. Lick number 4 sounds like this. Okay, a few things I want to discuss here. The first one on the face of it is that you need to know how to connect 2 different arpeggios. And here we have A minor 7. We use this sweep and slide technique that I talked about in a few of my Benson lessons. We sweep, slide. That's the technique. And we're connecting it to this arpeggio for D7. And you might think about this in a couple different ways, right? So you could think about this like a D9 arpeggio, but we just don't start on D, we start on the 3rd. Now, the other concept here that I really think is important, and let's listen to this lick one more time, but I'm not going to play the last note. Where does this sound like it wants to go? As you're learning these ideas, it's really important that you listen to the pattern, the phrase itself, and really start to clue your ear on where is that resolution, where's that end of that phrase. And this one, to me, really sounds like it wants to go to this D, which is where Joe Pass ends up going. But sometimes we want to subvert that expectation, and that is a lot of what we're doing when we're improvising, is we're sort of managing these expectations. We want certain things to resolve in expected ways, and sometimes we want to play with what's expected and go into a different area and create some surprise, some excitement. At the same time, we need to balance it. We can't have everything be completely a surprise or subverting expectation, because we need to hit certain notes that establish the harmony and make sense to the listener. So in this case, where might we go to subvert that expectation? Instead of going to D, you could go up. So if the resolution wants to go down, sometimes we can subvert that by actually going up to another note that fits over the chord, but in a different direction than what the ear's expecting. So you can play with that in your practice as well. Next up, lick number 5 sounds like this. So this sounds like a pretty standard bebop type of idea, and I want to go over this concept here, especially for this type of idea, that it's more important that you learn these deeper lessons as I'm going through this than the licks themselves. So the lessons are more important than these licks. And this is a good example of that. So the lick by itself is good. There's nothing wrong with this idea, but the deeper lesson here is the approach that Joe Pass is taking to be able to play this specific set of notes. And in this case, what is this deeper lesson? Well, if we look at this, it's a minor 2-5. So A minor 7 flat 5, D7. If we look at what's happening here, we're really targeting notes in that D major triad. So F sharp, A, enclosure to D, chromatic approach to A again, and so on and so forth. So it's so important that we master these fundamentals. In this case, just mastering the notes in the triads of the chord. Not even the 7th arpeggios, just the notes in the triad, and being able to chromatically approach those notes, do enclosures to target those notes, various methods that we would use in jazz to target triads, notes in the triad. So don't get distracted by a lot of fancy licks. It's not nearly as important as just mastering these fundamentals and very simple, straightforward ways of targeting those notes. Okay, these next couple of licks are probably the most important as far as the concepts. And for lick number 7, let's play it first. So the big idea for this one is you need to connect your concepts. And so we've gone through a bunch of different ideas already. And funny enough, this is one of the licks that Joe Pass plays again on All the Things You Are. And let's just see how perfectly it connects things that we've already just talked about in this lesson. So starting off, what is that, a Scarpios? It's a scale, almost the exact same one actually, but just in a different key. So scale into arpeggio, scarpeggio. What does he do after that? Well, we have a target note over C, which is the same exact thing actually we saw when we had E flat 7 over here on that other lick. And then the last thing that he does over the A flat major, that is literally the exact major number 1 lick we looked at. He did it in that part of All the Things You Are over G major. And now he's doing the exact phrase, the pivot, and 1, 2, 3, 5 over A flat major. So this whole 2-5-1 lick is just him connecting those separate ideas that we were discussing into a new pattern. So hopefully that just demonstrates to you, it's not about getting more knowledge, it's about connecting the ideas you already have. Okay, lastly, for lick number 7, it sounds like this. So the concept here is to repeat your ideas. Looking at this one, it's almost the same as the lick that Joe Pass did that we just saw, right? And that was over All the Things You Are. This one is on his solo of I Love You. And we have a 2-5, minor 2-5, but on the song I Love You, we resolved to major. But look at that start. It's the same exact thing we did for the 2-5 to B flat minor and E flat 7. Slightly different way of getting into that scarpeggio. He plays the full scarpeggio and then shifts to something else, connecting to other ideas that he has. The point here is when you have these ideas, don't worry about repeating them. A lot of more inexperienced improvisers worry about playing the same thing again. And that's totally normal if that's you as well. But the masters repeat ideas across different solos on different songs and even within the song multiple times. So it's not something you need to worry about. Actually, part of what makes their improvisation sound cohesive is that use of repetition. All right, hopefully this has been helpful for you guys. If you want to learn more or get the PDF for this, as well as my whole Joe Pass master study and a whole collection of these licks, it's all in Chase the Guitar Academy. I spend 7 days a week working there with all of these guys. You can ask me questions, see me in live classes. We have a whole CGA faculty program over the summer that's going to be phenomenal. We have a whole summer schedule that is out. I'll put it up here. Guys including Tim Fitzgerald starting very, very soon, John Story, Corey Christensen, Dan Wilson is going to do some deep dives. It's really an intense program for your learning. You guys can do as much or as little of that as you would like. And I hope to see you there. 7-day free trial. Click the link in the description. See you there.